Into every generation, podcasters are born. Two guys in all the world, chosen ones. They alone will wield the strength and skill to discuss the vampires, demons, and the forces of darkness, to lament the spread of their evil and the swell of their number. This is the Untitled Buffy Project.
Welcome to the 9th episode of the Untitled Buffy Project. This week we're looking at Something Blue. In this episode, Willow's feeling a little bit down and casts a spell which has a very bad effect on all of her friends. The most important of which being that Buffy and Spike fall in love and get engaged. This episode was written by Tracy Forbes and directed by Nick Mark. Okay, Carter, out of the different curses that Willow bestows upon people, which would you want to suffer? Blindness, becoming a demon magnet, or falling in love with your worst enemy?
I mean, that's something everybody thinks about every once in a while in their life. I think I would go with the blindness.
Yeah, me too. Especially knowing it's a mystical blindness. Because Giles doesn't seem too worried at any point. He knows it's going to go away.
Right. And falling in love with my worst enemy, who is also a vampire. Oh boy. And also, in the way in which they fell in love, I would just. Do they ever talk about that ever again? That's so embarrassing for them. And for their characters, I mean, Spike's already in bad enough of a state. He's constantly chained up. He's drinking pig's blood out of so once again, Giles is my favorite character. They have a little shot of his desk, and he has a Kiss the Librarian novelty mug. I think that's what they use to give Spike the pig blood.
I wonder if he bought it himself. Hopefully someone gave that to him.
He probably bought it himself. But, well, not this episode, but coming up soon, Giles gets a little action. Giles is a pretty he's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's usually got a lady friend going on somewhere, even if we don't see or learn much about her.
Yeah. So my first note on this episode is Joss really misses Seth Green.
Yeah.
Willow is Joss Whedon in this episode, I fear.
Oh.
Actually,
you could make a really strong argument for that because who has the power to curse all of the characters? Either Willow or the writer,
the creator, right? He is this whole episode is, well, it could have totally fallen apart. So I off air I mentioned to Sean that I kind of wanted to not like this episode because in someone else's hands they could have really fumbled it. But between the good writing, the good directing, and then Allison Hannigan, just like, she nailed it. She totally she hit all the right emotional notes in this episode, and it was believable, and you felt for her. And if anyone out there has been through a breakup of any kind, you feel for Willow. You empathize with her.
This was not one of those times that Willow went off the rails, and we were like, "What is she doing?" We were like, yeah, yep." Human emotion, what a pain.
Yeah, I mean, so, since it's Buffy, there are layers of meaning here, but she has a line, I think in like the third act, isn't there some way I can make this all go away? Like, just say poof. And, she means, like, isn't there a spell or something that I can use to, like, make this all go away? But that's, like, a feeling that everybody has, regardless of if you're, in a Wiccan coven, everyone wants to be able to just, like, poof away bad feelings, but you gotta...
There's a process. You have to go through it.
Exactly. So, other than... It was interesting, this episode really ably combined the sort of emotional turmoil of Willow with a lot of comedy.
Yeah, this is a perfect Buffy, like, this is the way you get the tone of this kind of episode right.
Yes.
It walks the line between very serious and making you think about human relationships and crazy, fantastic comic relief. And these actors just, like, go for it. Buffy and Spike especially are just hysterical the way that they act towards each other in love. When they have their bickering and they're going back and forth, and Giles is basically like, he has to play the dad card, and then he's like, why am I even acknowledging this ridiculousness?
Yes. I mean, Giles has he's got a lot of great little moments in here. He has this line towards the end, just stop whatever it is you're doing. You smell like fruit roll-ups. Every little thing about this was great, and it just sort of builds to a great moment at the end. There's like, I thought it was really well paced, uh, that was due to both like the editing and the actors just making good choices. Everybody kind of ends up at the same place at the end, and that's when all the discovery happens. But it was one of those episodes where I'm a super critical person, see pangs, and I just kind of stopped taking notes on this episode. And I was like, I'm just gonna let this happen. It was fun. Allison Hannigan, she's a really great actress, just generally. She pulled out one of the things that I liked in this episode was she pulled off being buzzed really well. She wasn't campy about having she wasn't exactly drunk, but she'd had
Right.
a bit
She had
to
a
drink.
few.
And she pulled it off pretty well. One of those every once, every sentence or so choosing the wrong word, or just slurring something right here, right there, and just being not quite totally in control of her body,
Right.
as opposed to what we see in Beer Bad, which they referenced.
They did?
I felt, yeah, it was. I thought that it was a little slap in the face when the crew figures out that Willow's been drinking at the Bronze.
Yeah, she drops the beer bottle.
Buffy says, remember what happened to me the last time I, drank a lot of beer? And I think she even mentioned something about Neanderthals.
Okay. I must have forgotten that.
You blacked that out from your mind.
I guess so.
The worst episode of Buffy ever, and it's still with us.
I like the moment when Riley finds Buffy out standing outside the bridal shop staring at the dress, and you get this really weird confrontation between them that she reveals all this stuff, and he's just like, oh, of course you're getting married. That makes sense.
Right, and then at the end, she has to walk it all back, oh, you thought I was being serious?
I'm Crazy Buffy. Don't you know my nickname? Crazy Buffy.
Right. I was just messing with you. The payoff, the big payoff of this episode is that the demon or the whatever that turned Anya into a vengeance demon,
Yes.
takes Willow to the fourth dimension or something.
He sees some potential, and he wants to offer her some job placement.
Right. And that's when she realizes oh, I've been just totally destroying my friends, and oh, this is terrible. And when she backs away and she's like, no, thank you, I don't, I'm just no, I'm not going to do it. The music's really tense, and the guy who's playing the demon is sort of looking at her very angry. And then he's like, okay, well, let me know if you ever decide.
Here's
if you
my
want to do
card.
This. He says that. He said, here's my talisman. That was great. I loved that. Loved almost everything about this episode. I was really impressed. They've got me back. I thought they were kind of going off the rails a little bit with that Native American episode.
Yeah, I like how I guess the underworld is kind of a lot of the times it's just run like a business. It's just another side of everything that we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
There's a demon bar where demons hang out. We've seen a little bit of it in this season, and there's totally a recruitment officer who, if he sees some witch pulling off some badass spells, he'll just pop in and be like, "Hey, you want a job, man? You want me to hook you up?"
The last thing that I had on this episode was they got in a seeing Angel in LA more crossover stuff, and I was just like, oh, for God's sake, just stop it. You're looking desperate, Buffy. I don't mean her, I mean the series. It's I get it. There's this other show on. I'm not going to watch it. Do you have anything else? That's all I had on this episode.
Yeah, that's
I don't
fine.
have any more notes. The only other thing I had was they were playing Blink-182 at the Bronze, and I was like, oh my God.
That's right. That's actually the reason I ended up playing All the Small Things on my drum channel, because I had just watched this, and I was like, ooh, that's a good song.
Yeah. I was like, it was playing, and I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? And I'm like, oh my God, it's Blink 182. And then I was like, oh my God, that song is 15
Oh
years
my
old.
God, it's 1999.
Holy moly. It was just kind of shocking to me.